It is.
But there's also one beat that you have, after the first encounter with the African American woman who you don't know, what she is.
Yeah.
When she leaves and you have that moment before you walk in the bedroom, I don't want to give it away because it's so clearly a comic moment.
Right. That's right.
After
she leaves?
Right. And Edie Falco comes in.
Yeah. So she, here's the thing with that one was a good case of where I felt the story was being told to me rather than me telling it.
Yeah.
Because the point of that to me was Horace hooking up with somebody. One night stand. And the one night stands in life that are very mutually
good.
Yeah, and also mutually negotiated. Yeah, everybody's cool with what's going on.
Right.
And that when she wakes up the next morning and goes and she's just like, I didn't mean to stay over. And Horace says, have some eggs. And she says, and then I'm leaving. And Horace says, yeah, please do. And then they're able to sit together because they both know no one's going to get snarled here.
But then you get into that conversation that you have, which I've never seen it played that way.
Well, because I thought what's interesting, once I got them sitting down, I didn't know what I was going to have them talk about, but I thought, here's an interesting thing. Two people who have been intimate, which means they can tell each other something.
Yeah.
But they have negotiated we are never going to see each other again.
Yeah.
Which means they can tell each other things without fear.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Right.
And I thought, Horace is a guy who, if you ask him 3 questions about his life, you find out something terrible.
Yeah.
That's a fucked up way to go through life.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, you got, just questions that have nobody, and they're eating eggs. They don't really even want to talk.
Yeah.
You got, are you married? No. Divorced? You have kids? Yep. 2. Yep. Really? How old are they? And then it all comes out.
Yeah.
You can't even answer that question for Horace without this horrible truth coming out.
Yeah.
And so he tells her, and to me, that's what the scene was about. It was about that. And then I started to figure, okay, well, then we'll start landing the scene by talking about sex and just that she enjoyed it, he enjoyed it. You have a nice dick. Thank you. You have a nice pussy. Thanks. It's right. I had to put it where my dick used to be. I had to make that joke.
Yeah.
It's just a joke.
Yeah.
And then I went, as Horace in my head, I was like, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
And then the conversation took off from that. I didn't know the scene was going to be about that. I didn't intend to write that scene. I really didn't. And then once I started having that conversation with myself in my head, about halfway through, I talked to Vernon about it. And he said, well, wait a minute, though. If someone is transgender, they have to tell their partners. And I was like, really? They do? And then I thought, that's so interesting that he thinks that.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. So I had that out in the conversation.
Right.
But I got to give Vernon credit because when we shot that scene, it was intense.
Yeah.
And the last take we did, I thought we were done.
Yeah.
I was like, we did it. And then Karen Pittman, who played the woman, said, I'd love one more. And I said, you don't need one more. She said, I don't think I have it at all. And I said to her, I don't need you to feel satisfied. Like as an actor.
Yeah.
You gave it to me. She said, just let me do one more. I said, all right. So we did it. That's the one we used the last one.
Right.
That she wanted.
Yeah.
And it's far better than the one previous. So she gets credit for that. But right before we did it, there's something I've started to do in directing when I'm in the thing.
Yeah.
If you're doing a last take, it feels like a last take, do something that the person didn't expect. Like walk towards them when you haven't for 5 takes, or go walk over and like put your hand on their shoulder, something that makes them do something really honest.
Yeah.
But anyway, he got in my ear and said, you should say this one thing. And he fed me that line right at the...
Which one?
Right before the one you're talking about, the thing I say to you.
Yeah,
Anyway.
because it was like in the way you structured this show. Even if something's funny, you're not writing jokes. There's no, it's not.
No, there's none. It's all just mechanics of the story, and then it's these feelings. And I kept getting blindsided by feelings, like in that scene. So Edie wasn't supposed to be in that scene.
Yeah.
But there was this thing where she's got cancer.
Yeah.
And there's a timeline to her cancer.
Right.
And I'd been talking to Edie about that kind of stuff, and so I said to her,
is that the scene where she tells you she has cancer?
It's the scene where she tells me she's healthy, that she got a good card of,
Oh, that's right.
So I said to her the day before, hey, you know what? You're not supposed to be here tomorrow for the Karen Pittman scene, but come anyway. And come in at the end and tell me that you're cured.
Yeah.
And I just figured it's a story point.
Yeah.
And I'll go, hey, terrific.
Yeah.
So she said, okay, how do you want me to say it? I'm like, just however you would say that.
Yeah.
That you got good news.
Yeah.
And she goes, all right. So I forgot it. I forgot I told her to.
Yeah.
I honestly forgot.
Yeah.
Until we're shooting the first. I think we didn't do any rehearsals of that. Because when we rehearsed the scene, I didn't have that in it.
Right.
So we're shooting the scene with Karen Pittman. And then she's about to leave. And Edie walks in. And I forgot that I told Edie to be there. Even.
Yeah.
And then it's like weird because she's there with this woman I was just with.
Yeah.
And then the Karen Pittman leaves and I go to Edie and she looks weird.
Yeah.
And I'm really in a real place.
Yeah.
And I said, what's up with you? And she says, I've got good news. And I go, what? She says, I'm okay. And it fucking hit me like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
I never experienced something like this. She said this thing to me and I was like, that's my sister. And I was afraid to even consider the possibility that she was dying.
Right.
And she's going to be okay. And now I'm upset that she was dying.
Yeah.
It hit me so hard. I mean, I'm getting emotional now.
Yeah.
I fucking lost it.
Yeah.
I just like, I started to cry and then I wanted to hug her and I thought, I can't, she's not like that. I can't do it.
Yeah.
Sylvia doesn't like to be hugged.
Right.
So I just kind of stood there and she stood there kind of gasping.
Yeah.
And then we hugged awkwardly.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah.
And then that line that Vernon gave me was just perfect. It was perfect.
It was a pretty outstanding line.
Yeah, no, it was great.
So that
was another time I got really hit hard.
Well, I saw you going through it, but do you feel?
Okay. Tell me about the episode 7, I think it was, about a transgender dialogue. I mean, the dialogue is fabulous.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you know, you wrote it.
Yeah, well.
Tell me about it.
Well, that...
Any reason not to tell me?
No, I'm just trying to think of what to say about it. When I wrote that, I didn't expect that to happen in that story. To me, that story was about Horace confesses something to her first.
Right.
About his life, something very shocking.
Right.
And to me, that's what that scene was about. Initially, that's why I wrote the scene, was that
Horace confesses to this girl.
Because they have a one-night stand.
Right.
So they have an immediate intimacy. And then the next morning, they don't want to look at each other, which is how people sometimes feel in the morning.
Right, yes.
But he invites her to some eggs. Sit down and have some eggs before you. And she says, I don't want to be here. And he says, I don't want you here. So they're safe with each other because they both know that they don't want anything. They don't want to see each other again.
Right.
So now
therefore they can be more truthful.
That's what it is. More truthful than they are with someone that they have a future with.
Right.
So she asks Horace about his life, and he has a very shocking detail about his life. And he just goes ahead and tells her, because it was easy to tell her. And to me, that's what I sat down to write.
Yeah.
And then I had her tell a joke. He says, I mean, you're not going to be able to air this, but he says, you have a nice pussy. And she says, yeah, I put it in myself where my d used to be. And I just have her tell that joke. Now, you're not going to be able to use that, but she makes She makes this joke. And he laughs, and then I felt like I was in the room with him, and I felt like, what if she's not kidding? What if she's kidding, but she wants to toy with him more on the subject? And then I just started to trade lines down this road. That he finds himself in this situation, and then she's interested in talking about this.
And he wants to know who is he slept with.
Did he sleep with someone who used to be a man? And she says, well, if I was transgender, wouldn't that mean I am a woman?
Yeah.
Aren't we all saying that when someone becomes transgender, I'm told 50-50 by people which one you're supposed to say.
Right.
That's a woman. Caitlyn Jenner is a woman now.
Right.
With all the rights of a woman and the yes and hooray, she's a woman. And it's not polite to say that's Bruce Jenner in a dress or Bruce Jenner who got an operation.
Jenner.
That's
A
Caitlyn
woman.
Jenner, a woman. So if Caitlyn Jenner sleeps with a man, does she have to tell him I used to be Bruce Jenner? I think that's a really interesting unresolved for the average person who doesn't think about this kind of stuff all the time, which is what Horace is.
Yeah.
In the show, that's who I'm playing. A guy who's just got a myopic view. That's a really uncharted wilderness. Yeah. So I put him in that wilderness with somebody who had a little bit more Although I don't know in the end. I don't know if she's transgender or not, the character. I still don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Horace doesn't know.
But she says to him,
what if I was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She says to him at the end, you know, I'm a woman. You slept with a woman.
Right, and then he goes one more time, who always was one, and she goes, so still don't know.
So he doesn't
Still
know.
don't
Which
know.
was that great device.
Yeah, and I also think that Horace is excited by the ambiguity. He asks her out.
Really?
Yeah, he likes it. I think Horace is a little bit turned on by not knowing what or who,
Whether
happens.
he slept with a woman or a man.
I think he's excited by, especially by her command of being able to stand on that shaky line. She's exciting him by toying with him. That's what happened in the scene. But I'm telling you all this from having watched it, not from having written. When I wrote it, I didn't know what was going on.
See, that's amazing to me. You didn't have any idea.
I really didn't. I was like, what? Oh, then what? Oh, then what would he say?
Yeah, right.
And then he
right.
says it. And then what would she say? And then she says it, and I'm like, oh my God, that's so crazy that she said that. Well, then Horace would ask this question. And then they just sort of talked. They talked in my head, and I wrote it down. That's what it felt like anyway.
Yeah.
It doesn't always feel like that way, right?
Tell me who Horace is.